No, we were just saying that we saw a bunch of Rusty Blackbirds yesterday at Daniel Wright, which was awesome. It was because I think we saw maybe 2 years ago was the last time we saw Rusty
Mhm.
Blackbirds. And then I know we did the episode on them and, their population has been in decline. And I feel like when we did that episode where I was bashing on robots and saying I wish more people cared about Rusty Blackbirds, I was like all sad. And so it was really exciting to like go see some in the wild. And we saw, I mean, at least 5, but we think that there was more than that.
Way more.
Yeah. So it was really exciting, but it was just all
awesome.
around good day too.
Cool. I mean, it's just such a great time of year because stuff is really moving around and there's water in all these flooded areas, and that's what the Rusty Blackbird's like. And
Yes.
That's exactly what, like, this river was totally flooded and those walking trails that are normally there were like blocked off because they were completely flooded. But if you kind of walked around, we just saw all these Rusty Blackbirds and then also a bunch of other birds, but it was like totally, I don't know. I feel like if it hadn't been flooded, they probably wouldn't have been there.
No,
So
they wouldn't have been.
But there are all these different flooded areas. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that there are all these throughout the forest preserve. There are all these different like flooded patches throughout it, and so we saw them like not just at one location, but like multiple. So there must have been multiple groups of them there. Like we walked to this one flooded area, and then walked like a half a mile down somewhere else near the river that was flooded, and we saw more of them there. So it was just cool to see like that many of them all in one place, but like kind of spaced out too.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that they actually, I think essentially their migration is timed to hopefully have flooding in this part of the Midwest because they love those when the water gets into these low-lying areas that they can just go in and flip leaves around and get whatever's coming out at that as a result of that. It's a really specialized bird in that sense.
Gosh, John, you're reading my mind because that's exactly what we saw them do, right, RJ?
Yeah,
just like kind of root in the ground. And for a while, we were not sure if we were seeing actually Rusty Blackbirds or female grackles or female red-winged blackbirds, but they definitely had that behavior of like rooting in the ground and turning stuff over. So that makes me confident that's what we were seeing.
Yeah, and I think there definitely were like grackles and red wings amongst them too. So it was like you could kind of see the differentiation between them, but which made it tough, but also helped because we were sure like, okay, that's different from that, kind of helped seeing them side by side. Yeah.
And it definitely had that behavior you're talking about, John. And I love when you can see a behavior that really makes them stand out versus just their appearance.
I mean, I like the fact that because of those rains, some of the places I go, like Perkins Woods up in Evanston, has water that comes up and is just flooding the forest floor basically. And the minute you see it, it's like, okay, the next week or so, somebody's going to report Rusty Blackbirds here.
Oh.
So cool. That is so cool.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we saw.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
We also had a big woodpecker day. We saw 7 different species of woodpecker
7?
all at Daniel Wright. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
So pileated.
We saw pileated. Yeah. We saw a pair of pileated. We saw yellow-bellied sapsucker. We saw downy and hairy, flicker, red-headed and red-bellied.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
which we'd seen at that. There's always a lot of woodpeckers at Daniel Wright. We've seen 6 before, 6 species, but this was the first time that we'd seen 7. So that was, and we didn't even expect. We just kind of were like going for a walk, and all of a sudden, I think were the pileated the last ones that we saw, Amanda?
Yes.
So it was like we didn't think it was like the ones we were most excited about were last. So that was fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
And we love Daniel Wright. It's actually not far from where I grew up, and the Des Plaines River is what is flooding it, and that's what flooded my house when we were growing up. But so it felt very at home. But we'd seen 6, I think, before, but we'd never seen the yellow-bellied sapsucker at Daniel Wright. So that was really exciting.
Yeah. And at one point we were looking at the pair of pileated and saw a yellow-bellied sapsucker on another tree and then a redhead on another tree. So we saw like 3 different species all like that we could see like kind of at the same time. It was an awesome day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the yellow-bellieds come through in basically a about a 2 to 3 week period right about now. So,
Okay.
95% of the population. Every once in a while, there's a straggler you see before or after, but
Okay.
it's amazing.
Yeah, we were
That's
trying to think
so
if we had
cool.
ever even seen them before. It might have been, we checked in it, we had seen them the previous year, I think, but they're definitely, we feel like we don't see a lot of yellow-bellied sapsuckers. So,
Mm-mm.
so they only come by just for a couple weeks
Yeah.
then?
Yep.
That's what they're, okay.
Yep. The whole population
Okay.
breeds further
awesome.
north and winters further south for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad we
I'm so
saw
glad
it.
we saw him.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So
Yeah.
do you guys make e-bird lists after every birding trip that you take now?
We do, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
We share an account though, so it's all under Amanda's name. But yeah, we log everything. So, or
Yeah.
at least try to.
R-
Yeah.
RJ's really good about logging. I'm not as good.
Logging for you.
Exactly. He's like, he's my, yeah. I feel like I get a lot more vernacular time and he has to do the phone time, but he's really good at it. Yeah.
But yeah, what's new with you guys? How have you been?
I don't even know how to answer that.
Shannon?
I'm trying to,
Oh.
I'm breaking my brain by trying to learn music. I'm convinced that I want to teach my cochlear implant how to understand bird sounds again, because it doesn't at all. But
Oh, cool.
it doesn't understand music yet, so I think I might. I can physically feel it kind of gnarling my brain inside. So yeah, I
Oh.
train a lot, like many hours a day. I have things streaming almost exclusively into that ear. I mean, do I think it's getting better? I guess it is. I don't know. I'm getting faced with my own limitations, so and I don't know whether it's teaching my brain or whether there are settings that can be tweaked on the implant itself to help clarify sound. So I have very good word recognition for the most part. And if you give me any contextual clues, I understand everything. But I have problems with certain words like big, bed, and beg. Big, bed, beg are serious problems for me. Not if you give me context, obviously, because you're not going to use those three at the same time on average. But yeah, so I have to practice. John is going to be an unwilling guinea pig or participant in my practicing, although he's about to go away, so it's going to be tricky. I might be enlisting you guys into helping me practice.
Yeah, we'll come help, Shannon.
My
We could help,
my
yeah.
baby word things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to frustrate myself, listening to speech and noise to see if I can make that better. Listening to music over and over and over to see if I can actually get it to sound like music is supposed to sound. Music is the hardest part. It's tuned to voices, but not to music. And so you really have to do a lot of training to get music to sound right. But I'm 3.5 years into music sounding like crap, and I want it to be different. So one of the things they do is one of the things I hate the most is the suggestion is that, or the advice is that you should listen to single instrument music, like harps or guitars. And no offense, but I hate that kind of music. I've never liked classical music. I don't like any of that stuff. So I listen to it. I'm like, oh my God, can't I just listen to my own playlist? Which I can, of course, but I have to teach my brain what a harp sounds like, because the first time you listen to a harp, you're like, what now? What instrument is that? And I look and it says harp. I say to myself, really? Honestly? That's what that is? That's a guitar? No way. But I don't know.
Wow.
I feel like I need to retire so that all I do is train my ear because there's so much time involved. But I don't know. So on Friday, I was contacted a month or two ago by someone who's making a documentary about their brother-in-law who is really into birding now and seeing their 300th bird at Montrose. I think it's at Montrose. Anyways, I don't even know exactly why he contacted me, but he wants me to talk to him in this documentary about bird song. And so he's going to talk to John for a few minutes on Friday, and then he's going to talk to me about bird songs. And then it, of course, because of my hearing, it takes its own unique, bizarre twist, which has to do with what on earth you hear. So, or how my brain now interprets sounds. I've always had to retrain myself every year to even common birds. I've never had very good sound memory for bird sound songs. I don't know why. I have really good memory for songs growing up. Really good lyric memory even before they put lyrics on the on any app you can look at. But I have always had a problem with bird songs, and this is now it's super weird because not only do I have a problem, it doesn't sound right again. Even in both of my ears, it doesn't sound right. So it's a lot of training that goes into that. And I think maybe just a lot of understanding we have to know about the brain and sound in general. And every time I try to do these new things, it reminds me of what we don't know yet. So I work with this therapist, this auditory therapist, who's been really helpful in helping me understand what it is that I'm doing, what words are sticky and what sounds are sticky in my brain that I can't quite hear right, like big bed and bed. Big bed, egg, big bag and bed. And her point is that she trains me to the point where I've taught my brain, so it's not my brain not recognizing those things anymore. It's actually the implant that can be tweaked to clarify sound. So I'm super grateful that
Wow.
I can understand almost everything that's said through this implant. But what I don't have is like complete clarity of sound yet. So you guys were easy because you all sounded like you because I knew your voices before this thing was turned on. But there's still a part of you that's above and below your actual sounds, like from my good ears. So, and that causes a bit of distortion. Um, and that
Okay.
distortion is magnified 1,000 times when it comes to a bird song, which this ear cannot identify flat out at all, like nothing yet.
Okay.
But I am starting to be able to recognize where sounds are coming from. So that's a good thing. So maybe I'll actually find a bird when
that's
I'm
good.
outside.
That's great.
Last week I could identify the phone ringing and I knew what office it was coming from, which is, that hasn't happened in a
cool.
few years.
That's
I know it
exciting.
sounds weird, but to actually recognize when someone's knocking at my office door is novel.
That's
So John
great.
doesn't sneak up on you in the house anymore.
Oh, no. I learned not to do that years ago.
Okay.
I'm super jumpy, and no amount of training this year is ever going to change that. But it takes a long time.
So have you guys been hearing anything singing?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Red Wings. I'm trying to think what we've.
Yes, a lot of Red
yeah,
Wings.
I feel like Red Wings overpower everything. That's like all we hear.
Yeah, and Robins.
And Robins. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else.
I was
Cowbirds
Cardinals.
too.
Cowbird. Yeah. Coming back
Cowbird.
to the stuff Shannon was talking about, people were asking me at some tour I did last week about cowbirds, which of course the chicks are growing up in a nest of a host, not around brown-headed cowbirds necessarily. And one of the questions was, how do they figure out that the sounds they're hearing are brown-headed cowbirds, such that they actually reunite with their species? And it's an interesting thing.
That's so smart.
Wow.
What's the answer, John?
I need to look into that. But I'm a lot of birds have a window, particularly passerines have Aussie passerines have a window of learning, and depending on what they hear, they produce sounds like that. And what I would say is brown-headed cowbirds that's not a functional way for them to actually listen to things and become brown-headed cowbirds, unless maybe there are enough brown-headed cowbirds around calling in any given area.
Not compared to their hosts, though.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, so it's a really interesting question.
I mean, there's a lot of ways birds make sounds, both physically, in their vocal apparatus, in their brains, and whether they're learning or their sounds are innate. And we think of songbirds as being incredible vocal learning, and that maybe that vocal learning has played a role in the vast number of species that are found in songbirds. But I wonder if things like cowbirds haven't gone evolutionarily back a few steps to where their sounds are innate, that they actually learn. They don't learn in that way. They have kind of some range of whatever a cowbird is supposed to sound like that's encoded in their DNA. so that they don't have to rely on
interesting.
what they hear when they're in these fundamentally early developmental stages where their brain is growing and stuff. So I
That's
wonder if
really
they just
cool.
do things really differently. And that's a question that can be tested. I mean, you can look at the genes that are
That's really
responsible for
interesting.
song learning,
Cool.
which we know a little bit about now. And you could see whether there are things that are happening inside of cowbirds that are different. And other nest parasites too, which and there's a number of songbirds that are nest parasites too, and they have to learn what it is that they're going to be their own species in a really different way too. They're not getting trained by their parents at a nest and how to be a certain kind of finch or anything like that. They're flying blind, so they have to put some of that behavior more innately, or how else would they perpetuate a species if they didn't do something like that?
Yeah. I was wondering on the same vein, how with the cowbird, and I may have asked this before, but how we even if we couldn't see our parents, we have a mirror and we could see what we look like with cowbirds, and they're, hatching and they see things that don't look like them, or I think they would assume they look like them. I don't know. How do they know to mate with a cowbird?
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be, coming back to what Shannon said, some ability to recognize self. And at the same time, later on in the breeding season, I've seen, for instance, cardinals feeding fledgling cardinals, and they're just,
Wow.
What's going on in that is when the cardinal commits, they're committing to not only raising them in the nest, but also feeding them after fledging. And when I say commits, I mean, when they get duped into this, that's what they're doing. So it's kind of like both sides of the situation are kind of bizarre. And so that cowbird then eventually leaves that cardinal and goes out on its own, and it's clear that they absolutely figure out that they're cowbirds pretty fast somehow. And I've seen them in some of the cemeteries, for instance, in the post-fledging part of the year, where you can see these birds that are definitely young ones and they're starting to get together. And you wonder there, like, one of them could have been raised by a song sparrow and the other one could have been raised by a cardinal. And yet they're like sitting there going, hey, we're not either one of these things.
That's crazy.
And then
so you're saying that also could be innate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think people have not looked at the genetic basis of that very much in detail. There are some systems like Shannon was mentioning with astrildid finches, where widow birds and widas are parasitic, and so I think there's more. They're more closely related in terms of song with the birds they're parasitizing. But there's
human babies don't recognize themselves from others. That's a huge developmental milestone in a baby. So when a baby looks in a mirror, it doesn't see itself at first. That takes time. So it takes certain neuronal development inside their brain before that they recognize themselves. But it's clear that crows have that capacity. So there are birds that have that capacity to do things that we only thought people could do. And
Wow.
You could get some insight into what might be happening in a bird if we know enough about how humans do things, and then you can look at how humans develop, and you can go look at other things and see if they do it the same way. There's a lot, and then you can learn a lot about human development if you go look at the way other things do things too, in an evolutionary sense. Because as unique as we think we are, is as unique as we're actually not. So we're primates. We're animals, we're primates. And that comes with a whole set of evolutionary history associated with it.
Yeah.
But it is fun to watch a baby do those things. The idea that you can watch brain development just overnight. You can just stare if you're us, me, you can stare at our son like he's a developing bird and just look at everything he does in the context of biology. And what it might say.
I told him he was a cowbird.
Well, you
my gosh.
John Shannon, I wanted to ask you guys, I don't think we've chatted since the Listers guys came to the Field Museum, and I just was curious like how that all went. I know that we were emailing with Owen, the director of Listers, and got in contact with you guys, but was just curious how that all went and everything, because that must have been, the picture you guys shared looked awesome.
That's one of those things where one of the things is when you've seen somebody in film and you finally see them in person, it's always a little bit like your preconceived notion. So I remember going down to meet them when they came into the museum, and it was like, wow, for some reason I didn't think about them actually having bodies and
What? What are you? What?
I mean, no, I just realized like I didn't know, I'd watched that movie.
Well, they had bodies in the movie. Would you think it was AI generated? Yeah. What are you talking about?
Actually, that's not entirely true, given that only one of them is really prevalent in the movie.
That's true. Well, you can.
That's true.
You can infer that the other one is human and has a body as well.
But
I don't understand.
They were awesome, and he says trying to change the subject. It was interesting to. I mean, the interviewing with them was great. They're working on this documentary on ivory-billed woodpeckers that's supposed to be kind of a short, and they're working on other stuff, on other projects, and so they're making this work for them, which I think is just absolutely wonderful. They had been up in Minnesota doing ice fishing with people for a project that they have on fishing, and so I just think they're doing neat stuff. There were things about them I didn't realize, which was that Owen had worked for the wife of the curator of birds at the Peabody Museum in Yale.
Cool.
And she does a lot of documentary work. And so, it was just interesting to realize that they came into this just kind of on a whim during COVID at some level, but at the same time they had a skill set going into it that was gonna work, So for instance, Owen had done a lot of photography, and you could clearly see that in the movie.
Yeah,
Right,
I thought they were
they
were so much fun. They were sweet and nice and funny.
Nice.
They asked really good questions. They weren't they weren't arrogant or privileged, and they just were like down to earth, nice kids, who are pretty open
That's
about
awesome.
the way they live their lives too, which I found pretty funny. I mean, the stuff they talk about in Listers with drugs is true. I mean, it's not made up, the things that they do. And they're very open and funny about what they've seen when they've been high. Which is funny for me as the straightest person probably anybody who's ever listened to this podcast is. I am the straightest person that anybody, yeah. Anyways, I find it kind of, they're refreshingly open, and they are refreshingly authentic to what they looked like on that screen. So they were not different in real life, except that they were more intellectually, you could see more of their intellect in the context of them talking to us. They've done a lot of research. It's not just that they're fun or the kind of way that goofy in the way they are. They're actually studying things. They are becoming scholars of whatever it is that they're doing, which I wonder if that transition happened in the context of filming Listers, when it became more than just a kind of a travel thing and a real thing about birds. The more they knew, I bet you that developed at that time.
I'm sure that's I'm sure that's true, but what I took away from meeting him was that the precursors were there, and that's one of the reasons why the whole effort actually didn't turn into a complete fiasco. Is because they could figure out. I mean, they learned a lot doing it. There's no doubt about that. And at the same time, I think that early on it'd be fun to have them on again and talk about it.
I know.
Yeah, they said they'd come onto the podcast.
I'd like to meet their parents.
I'd love to meet them.
I don't, because I always wonder with our kid what people think we might be like from him, and whether there's any relationship between that. I mean, for the longest time, Pete was like a little mini John. His legs turned in the same way. And I used to look at him and think, did I give you nothing except the fact that you peed in my body for 10 months? You're not like me even one little bit, do I see sometimes. But
like I said, Cowbird.
Yeah.
Cowbird.
But then
you cowbirded Shannon.
I can't see it, but if I twist that, see that picture above me over there? That is my dad as a little, like a 3-year-old. And that when I saw that picture, it was in my mom's house. One of my aunts had given it to my mom after my dad died. When I looked at that picture, I'm like, oh my God, that could actually be Pete. And when I see his face, my dad's hockey pictures, for example, my dad has a little bit of an asymmetrical face with one of his eyebrows. We always used to tell him, Dad, put your eyebrows down. And he would put his eyebrows down. But there's a part of the way Pete holds his face, too, that's got that slight eyebrow asymmetry and he looks a lot like my dad in the pictures of my dad when he was young, a young hockey player. But the only thing I think he might get from me is that once he started living on his own, he didn't like messes. So I'm like, he couldn't have gotten anything useful from me, like organizational skills.
That's pretty useful.
That's useful.
RJ would say that's super useful.
Yeah.
He would have said, he wishes I got that.
Yeah, I think being clean and neat is a important thing.
Yeah,
I'd say that's definitely a good thing he got, and not a cowbird.
No.
Yeah, that came.
He's
from
a mix of you both.
Shannon.
Well, if you think about it, cowbirds are pretty neat because they don't have to feed young. They don't have to.
That's true. They're the ultimate neat.
They are. They just
smart,
kind of.
yeah.
They don't even have to build a nest.
Nope, none of that. Like they just.
They're
away with it.
takers, not makers. That's for sure.
Which is that's a good point actually, because I'm often fascinated when you like I show people a drawer of eggs and they say, wait, those are eggs laid by another species in the other bird's nest, and they're sort of horrified by it. And there is a cleanliness aspect to it.
I made
That's
John go to the
Yeah.
Skokie greening day, whatever they call it, with this big recycling thing that Skokie has. I forced him to do it this morning against his better judgment and against his wishes. He did it because things like that just bug me. The fact that there's cans of paint from we've lived in this house for 23 years, almost 22 years, 23 years. There's stuff in there from paint cans and stains, whatever, from before we moved in. So they've been sitting in our house for 25 years.
Wow.
I need them gone from my life. Like they weigh on these undone things, just weigh on me in a way that they don't even touch John. I can see it on his face. When I tell him he has to go, he's like, why? I'm like, because we can't have undone things.
All I can tell you is when I got to the paint recycling station, there were 2 people in front of me with more cans of paint than we had.
Oh, there you go. Not so bad. Not so
Just
bad.
saying.
My standards.
Shannon, you're speaking my language. I'm so much like.
And I'm with you, John.
Yeah,
I'm with you,
this is
John.
so funny.
But he did
We
it.
might need that paint someday.
That's exactly what you said. That's exactly
no
what you
joke.
said.
You sound
No
like
joke.
Amanda,
Might
John.
need a paint that you can't
100%
even get
John.
the lid off anymore, and it predates your son's birth. We might need that paint.
See, but you do sometimes.
Then
Not always.
then you can go
You could
to
be
the
in-
store and get a little tiny can
see-
of paint that will match.
Then you have to buy it
Yeah.
again.
Little
And maybe they don't
tiny
make that color
can you
anymore.
can get. You don't
Yeah.
need a 5-gallon thing of Kills primer that I don't even know how old it is. It can't get the lid off the container anymore. That's how dried and gross it is. Anyways, he did it for me.
John and I would find a way to revive it.
No, you wouldn't.
Absolutely. Or at
RJ
least try.
and I would find a way to renew that for you, because you guys just think you're going to use it, but you won't take steps to actually use it. So you'll leave RJ and I to figure it out.
True.
Yes. You're speaking my language, Shannon. Oh, too funny.
Oh,
But
man.
it's gone, and I feel better.
Hey, did you guys ever see there was like this
Good.
there was like this viral video, I feel like in the past year or something, and it was like the dad that can finally use this like 2x4 that he had hid in his basement or something, and it's like, I don't know, I'll have to find it and share it with you guys, but it's like they're doing work in their house and they're like, if only I had this like piece of wood that was like this big, and the dad's like, oh, I know, and he like runs to the basement, digs through all this stuff and pulls out this thing that looks
See?
totally worthless.
That's exactly right.
He was a
fits like
hero.
exactly
Worth $1 million.
No, the video's funny because it never happens.
It could.
I mean, John does not need random T-shirts that have no emotional meaning from being in high school.
Define no emotional.
They've
meaning.
been in the bottom of the closet for maybe more than.
I'm
20
wearing a T-shirt today that's become a classic. It's a Madison Audubon Society T-shirt.
Oh,
which
cool.
They've changed their
That is a
name.
classic.
That's no longer the case.
Oh, yeah.
They're now the Badgerland Bird Club, I think.
Oh, I'm
It's a
sure
collector's
it'll
item.
have value someday.
Exactly.
Just
That's
like
vintage.
30 years from now.
I made John.
When it comes to clothes and shirts, I'm with John on this one. I like, I have a lot of like vintage shirts and I keep all that
I
stuff.
made John put his sports memorabilia cards in plastic boxes from shoe boxes that didn't have lids that, I don't know, were from Nikes in the 70s. But because he's convinced these things will be worth, they are worth something. They're now in,
No, they're not.
now they're in
No,
archival boxes in the
whenever you look those
closet.
things up, you realize that I actually played with those cards, and that makes them basically worthless because they're not in mint condition.
Oh,
Oh.
that's sad. Jeez Louise.
Well, speaking of sports
Yeah.
cards, should we get into our final four?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do the
cool.
Final Four.
We've been,
As
Yeah.
disappointing
Cool.
as it was this year in basketball, let's see if
Oh,
this
yeah.
is better.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
you're
yeah, sorry about
Bringing up
Arizona,
really-
John. They made it to
Oh,
the
I
Final Four, though,
know.
at
It's
least.
not
That's a
good-
good run.
no,
At least make
he's
it to the
sad.
Final Four.
He's sad.
Speaking of T-shirts, I was in my closet the day before Arizona played Michigan, and I looked down, and I had a Michigan basketball T-shirt that was given to us by friends of ours who are alumni of Michigan, and I was like, I'm not wearing that today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't wear that for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe ever. Well, so I think we'll do both the Final Four and the championship. We'll
Let's
vote
do
on
it.
today.
Okay.
So I think we finished off last time, and the Final Four was on the LSU student side. It was the Cedar Waxwing against the Club Wing Mannequin. And then on our side, it was the Spoon-billed Sandpiper against the American Dipper. So first, let's do the matchup of the Cedar Waxwing and the Club Wing Mannequin. And so the LSU students voted that the Club Wing Mannequin won 7-5.
Oh.
Close.
I agree
Close.
with that, but
Yeah.
they should have been against the varied thrush. So I still have not gotten over the fact that varied thrush lost too early in this tournament. But I would vote for Club Wing Mannequin over varied thrush.
I loved some of their. I feel like most of the comments were about the Cedar Waxwing, even though they
Again,
lost. So-
LSU has a weird bias towards Cedar Waxwing.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Someone said they're more than just an animal; they're party animals. I believe in
Yeah.
Cedar Waxwing supremacy.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. That must have been one of the 5. Yeah. Yeah.
Someone said lifestyle choices. So I don't know if that's a plus or I don't know or a minus against the Waxwing. Someone said mannequins are too mainstream.
Oh.
Wow. See, that's
I-
only someone in our world would say mannequins are too mainstream, given that most of the people in the world have never
I
heard
love
of a
that.
mannequin. Certainly have never heard of a club winged mannequin. So that's a very
Except in a
small.
department store window.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
spelled the same. So that's a very small lane of the people who think club wing mannequins are, mundane and routine.
Mainstream. Yeah.
All right, so
Bougie.
what do we got? We got Shannon with Club Wing
Spoon.
Mannequin. What else?
Yeah,
How
I think I would have gone with Club Wing Mannequin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Amanda's going Cedar Waxwing all the way.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What?
Yeah.
John, what
What
about
about
you?
you, John?
I'm unfortunately going Clubwing Mannequin too.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
So-
with the supremacist at LSU.
What is
Cedar
it
waxwing
about
supremacy.
drunk birds
Yes.
that really gets you?
I know.
They-
Well, I think with the cedar waxing, it's one we've seen a lot, and I'm always gonna love ones that we see regularly. You know.
I loved we
Yeah.
got that letter recently from our friend Marcel, who remember came on and
Yes.
talked with us, and he said that he listened to our
awesome.
Cedar Waxwing episode, and when I talked about that, I thought Shannon was asking Marcel if Marcel was drunk when he saw Marcel was like, I laughed out loud when when I heard that.
That's awesome.
I totally misheard that. That was so
didn't-
funny.
Did I say that?
I think
think-
Shannon, you asked, have you seen them drunk?
Oh,
And I didn't realize that the Cedar Waxwings
Oh.
get drunk. So I thought you were like, has Marcel been drunk and seen them? And I was like,
It's a different kind of birding.
did not
Yeah.
compute in my brain.
That's right. Drunk birdie.
I am known for
Yeah.
saying things where I don't know what I'm saying that everybody laughs at, and I sit there like, what did I say? There's all these jokes that I am not capable of getting. I don't know why. My brain just doesn't work that way. So I don't get dirty jokes, for example, at all. So people say things, I have no idea what they are. And then they want me to look things up in the Urban Dictionary. And I'm like, no, I'm not having those searches on my phone or my computer. You look it up. You brought it up to me,
Oh.
so you look it up. Or you just tell me what it means. Because if you say it and you're embarrassed, then you have a problem too. It's not just me because I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, so then we can do on our side. So Amanda has her coin ready to flip, but I think we should
yeah.
I think for the Final Four in the championship, we need to come to an agreement, right?
Yep, we
Okay.
do.
So this might take some some convincing. But so Spoon-billed Sandpiper against the American Dipper.
Eesh. This is a tough one.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go first. I'm gonna go Spoonbill Sandpiper. It's.
I'll go with that, John. I'll go with that. Yeah.
I'm gonna go American Dipper.
Oh man.
Uh-oh, Shannon.
I'm really torn, but I'm going with a spoon-billed sandpiper.
Okay.
No
And that-
crying.
No, and that's because even though I love dippers and they remind me of home so much, and
Mhm.
the degree of convergence between a spoon-billed sandpiper's beak and a roseate spoonbill's beak I can't overlook that. This little tiny bird and this big giant pink bird with the same kind of beak that does the same thing is irresistible to me. So
Yes.
That's a
Yeah.
that's a double overtime
That's
match.
huge.
Like that's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't have been unhappy if it went the other
I'm
way.
surprised at you, RJ, because yeah.
Yeah.
When we first met John, he showed us
Mhm.
those two, and I feel like that's when you fell in love with John. So I'm surprised.
That is
you
true.
didn't
That
do-
was memorable when we saw
Yes.
that. So, okay, I'll change my vote. We can be
Okay.
unanimous.
Ooh.
The Spoon-billed Sandpiper advances. All right, so the championship matchup then. So this is just coming down to the four of us to vote on the Clubwing Mannequin against the Spoon-billed Sandpiper.
Oh.
in the role of international finalists, just like college basketball. I'm going with Clubwing Mannequin.
Who wants
Amanda,
to
you
go
go
next?
Oh gosh. So I haven't seen either of these in person, so it's like I don't care that much. So I'll go with the mannequin.
Oh. Amanda, you were so convincing with the Spoon-billed Sandpiper that we saw it with John.
I know, you're right. You're right.
But I don't want to sway you.
I know.
No, you
do like
voted
them.
You voted Mannequin. You voted Mannequin.
I do like the mating stuff with the mannequin. So I'll give I like that a lot.
I'm voting for the mannequin.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go
Okay.
for the Mannequin as well.
There we go.
Supporting
Okay.
the LSU students. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So our bird of the year, the Clubwing Mannequin.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Even though it's mainstream.
Yeah.
No, that was one person that came up with that. I'm just
Yeah.
like,
I
Right.
need to
I love
figure out
that.
who that is because we need to ask them what they meant. Like what circles they're running in that's a mainstream bird.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to say, so anybody that's been following along, we do have a new run of stickers that we got too. And so if you have been following along, just send us an email at podcast.birdsofafeather@gmail.com and send us your address, and we'll send you a free sticker for following along on this. So thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
And John and Shannon,
Awesome.
next time we see you, we need to get you a stack of them too.
Yeah.
I sent some to Nick, but we need to get you guys
Excellent.
some too.
Always,
yeah.
It'd be cool to have them.
Yeah. All right. And then, so I guess, did we want to chat a little bit about your upcoming trip, John, before we wrap it up on this one?
Yeah. I mean, upcoming trips, it turns out, because they ended up being back to back. So on next week, I'll be heading down to Peru with our curator of mammals, Anderson Fejo, and we're flying to Cusco, and then we're going to hook up with our collaborator at the museum in Cusco, and we're going to go down and see these sites along the Manu Road, which is so Cusco's up at about 10,000 feet or so, and it's on the Altiplano, and then Cusco, going out of Cusco, if you go eastward, you drop down the slope of the Andes all the way down to 500 meters elevation on the lowlands of the Amazon basin. And so 25 years ago, Field Museum personnel did a survey of birds and mammals across that gradient, going to various sites along the elevational gradient. And we're basically scouting out what those look like 25 years later so that we can go in and do resampling and try to look at effects of things like climate change and how distributions of birds and small mammals have changed across that gradient. And then I get back and I turn right around, and Louise Bott and Louise has been on the podcast. Her European goldfinch is one of the regions of the world where they've done quite well in terms of introductions, has been mainland Australia, Tasmania, and New Zealand. And so we're going to all three of those places, hopefully. And we're going to come back with samples that she can do genomic work on and look at the relationships. And we'll have her back on, but she's getting some spectacular results out of the genetic work that she's done on the birds we got in Bermuda, the European goldfinches that were introduced there. And we're expecting to see some interesting patterns in the birds that have been introduced to Australia and New Zealand. Well, I was just going to say, and then along the way, we may see probably something like 10 or 15 families of birds I've never seen before.
Oh,
cool.
Wow.
What are you excited? What are you excited to see?
You know, the funny thing to me is it's so there's so many that I just it's ridiculous. You know, lyrebirds, bowerbirds, kiwis. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on and on. Emu, you know, it's so
cool,
interesting part of the world. And you know, then there are these crazy things like koala bears and kangaroos and duck-billed platypus, maybe.
Cool, that'd be awesome.
Cool.
I'm told they look like a log.
So John, have you seen a?
They just kind of float and don't do anything, but still a duck-billed platypus.
Yeah, I'll have to look those. Have you seen a cassowary in the wild?
No, nope. I've never been to this part of the world, and so so this is entirely new avifauna for me. I've been doing what you guys would do, in the sense that I've got a field guide and I'm flipping through it every once in a while and just thinking, wow, I know next to nothing about the avifauna of this part of the world.
Awesome.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Jeez, I didn't think there was like anywhere that you hadn't been. That's really exciting.
Yeah, no, it's going to be neat.
Yeah. Has Louise been down there
Nope.
to this region? No. Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
Jeez.
That's going to be so incredible.
It's gonna be
Who
so
would have
cool.
thought, John, that an introduced bird is going to take you to all these places?
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. That is so funny.
Usually we're so bent on studying native species in places, these wild places that we go. And here he is going to Australia to study a European goldfinch, following the trail of colonialism.
That's so funny.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think when we had Louise on, it was still pretty early. I mean, that was maybe 2 years ago at this point. So I'm excited to get an update from her and from both of you too, just on kind of how everything has been going with that, and hear about your trip when you guys get back.
For sure.
Yes.
I'll be more than willing to talk about it, I hope.
Awesome.
That's exciting.
Cool. Well, I think that's kind of it. Everything for this episode. Was there anything else we wanted to chat about?
I don't think so.
No.
Cowbirds to cassowaries.
Well, for me, the,
Yeah.
the awning is gone from the museum south doors. And to me, that is the harbinger that spring is coming, even though it got warm and then it did snow after that. But still, I hate it when the awning goes up in October. I love it when it comes down at the end of March, or sometimes it's my April Fool's treat that the awning gets taken down that day. But the awning is gone, which means it's going to get better.
Spring is here.
Yeah,
That's
spring is
awesome.
here.
Yeah.
Oh, and congrats to Club Wing Mannequin, our bird of the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks to all the LSU students for all their funny comments. We had a great time with them.
We're going to have some of them
that
when
was
John
awesome.
gets back. We're going to arrange to have some of them come on the podcast. They can talk about what they do. And whatever their favorite birds might be.
Cedar waxwing,
awesome.
cedar
Cool.
waxwing, cedar waxwing.
Yes, I want to meet the
Fairy thrush,
Yeah, I wanna
fairy
meet those
thrush,
people.
fairy thrush.
Yeah, we can't get them on during Mardi Gras.
There we go.
exactly.